more and more people are doing it. So
Right.
the market's only going to expand.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, especially with COVID and everything that's gone on the last couple of years. I mean, more people wanting to get away, and it's more easy now more than ever to do this stuff.
And very rewarding. That's the best part. You know, you're doing all this DIY stuff and bring a couple of tools down to the property, and it's really rewarding. You know, step by step, you can improve it, and I would recommend it to everybody.
All right. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Land Stories Live, hosted by me, Dave Denniston of Generation Family Properties, LLC, where our goal is to help hundreds of people just like you own land. Well, I have the pleasure of having the extraordinary Kristy Limon and her husband, Jason, the better half of the we in their
I
relationship.
don't know. We'll leave that up for debate.
I'll be quiet.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Not much. How are you?
You know, we were remarking it's like, somewhere between 0 and 20 degrees in Minnesota today. So, it's January as we're filming this. This probably isn't it's going live on Facebook right now. We're live today, but this will be rebroadcasted on podcast a couple months from now. So, and I know you guys made a big change in your lives, and it's 0 degrees down your way?
Oh, not quite. Add 75 to that.
Darn you.
I know. It's balmy and nice. I have no complaints.
Well, you were just telling me like where you guys are, like it's dry season right now, and you're close to like rainforests. Like I think a rainforest, I don't think of ever a dry season. How does that work?
We had no idea either. I thought the same. Like, it rains all day, every day, all the time. But that's not it at all. So this is dry season for 3 months. Don't they call this their summer? This is basically like summer because it's dry. Although
no humidity.
Since it's equatorial, the temperature doesn't change much, just the humidity and the rain. But
interesting.
Yeah, so it's dry now, and then starting in April, we'll start getting pretty much daily showers in the afternoon. And then I guess September, October, it rains quite a bit. It's all the trade winds, I guess, is what controls it. We didn't know any of this either. We're learning it.
Well, I think what's so exciting about this for me, that I'm excited for you guys, is you are experiencing what our buyers experience with stuff. Like you bought land to start out with. So tell us about the land. What was the process like getting it, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so we came here. We had several that we wanted to look at. So pretty typical, we had 5 or 8 or something like that. Found this one. We kind of knew it was the one. So we were like, let's do it. We're going to go for it. It's 3 acres, just over, it's 3.14. So it's a pie. We always call them pie properties, 3.14 acres. Yeah, it's at the end of a dead end road. It has some trees, I would say mostly cleared, but has
with grass.
Trees with grass. Yeah, grass and trees. It's 3 tiered. So you drive in, you drive down, and then you drive down again to a river, which is amazing. And even during dry season, it is a full river. So we are also lucky it's not seasonal. It's slow now, but it does still run. Yeah, we fell in love with it. We went for it. We bought it. And then that was in April. And we've just now started the building process in the last month.
So what was it about that property for you guys? Why, what captured you about that one? Like, did you try and negotiate? Did you do perk tests?
So it was mostly him. He just got on the property and was like, this is it. He had this feeling. He was like, it is so peaceful and quiet out there. You can't see a neighbor. There are people around, but you can't see them. The end of the dead end road was pretty cool. We sort of wanted to be away from everything.
The
privacy was big for us. So that was a big one. We were able to negotiate a bit. Of course not as much as we wanted.
It did have a well.
Yeah,
It did have a well.
It had a well dug. Nothing else was done with it. There's electricity out in the front. We just had to do the typical, what I always tell people, we had to call the power company and have them come hook up the transformer and the meter. Done. That took a day. It was very fast, easy.
Really quick. Nice.
Yeah, they were really good. That's it.
Yeah.
We had to put in a septic. So that'll be, Jason can talk about that because that's the we part that I don't contribute to.
Well, so you guys got a property with the well, right? Like that's got to be complicated just in like testing it, or, you know, was the well even worth anything, you know, to have on the property? Jason, tell us about that.
Well, definitely having a water supply is the most vital part, especially for us, you know, because we're going to be spending most of our time down here. So having the well was crucial. You know, we figure they can be quite expensive having somebody come out, especially we're quite remote. And just having that was an added bonus. I'm a plumber by trade. If you didn't notice the accent, it's a little strange and I mumble a little bit. So I'm from South Africa. That's why I talk funny. But I've been a plumber by trade in South Africa for 13 years. So that was my forte. I'd done a bit of pump work and water filtration, etc. So yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the wells and the filtration and the septics. So that was pretty cool. It does help the budget quite a lot that I'm able to do most of the stuff myself. And we have a nice truck, so I'm able to bring the septic tank in and, you know, bring the water tanks in ourselves. So we're not really reliant on companies for delivery, etc.
That's huge. So with like just looking at the property the first time, and you fell in love with the location, but how did you know the water would be any good, you know, from this well that's already there?
Well, since we get a lot of rain and the water table's real high, I wasn't super concerned because typically the water will replenish quite quickly in this sort of zone. And by looking around, and I try to be as observant as possible and just see other people's wells and irrigation, etc. And I try to look for signs like browning on the walls or discoloration, etc. That'll pretty much be your iron and manganese and high mineral content. You want to try avoid it, but you are able to remove it.
Interesting.
So pretty much I'm an energy person. Sounds a little bit hippie, but there was a good energy on the property, and you know when you feel something, it gives you all the right feelings. And with a bit of vision, I walked around like a child at Christmas time and just said to Kristy, "This is where we're going to put the house, and we'll do this, and we'll put this here." And so we're able to visualize, which makes a nice difference.
Mm-hmm.
So when a well is in like that, like was there like a pump in it already, or was it? I'm imagining a well. I'm imagining like a stone structure with like a bucket. You know, that you go down in.
I've seen a couple like those around here, like the hand dug wells, because it's not really deep. I think we're about 10 feet until the water table in the well. So we're very, very lucky with that.
Ours was just, I think it's deeper than that.
About 20 feet, sorry.
Yeah. The well itself is 85 feet, but to answer your question, it was literally a pile of rocks on top of a
6-inch steel pipe.
That's all it was. So we could look down and then we were like, we don't know what's water down there. Like we have, to answer your question about the quality, we didn't know. It was a wing and a prayer of going, well, maybe it is good, maybe it is not good, but we're going to try it out.
Did you guys like talk to the neighbors? Because it sounded like you were like looking for like stain stuff. Like, did you go around to the neighbors and ask about the water or anything?
Yeah, so about 2 properties over, there are some Canadians, and we went across to them and they said their well runs perfectly. They drink it in the house. They use it for some irrigation. They're actually growing peppers or something down there. So yeah, they seem very, very happy with it. But the biggest thing with wells is just killing off the bacteria. You know, the other stuff is not that important, but getting rid of the bacteria is obviously number one.
So how do you do that? I have no clue. Like, how do you do that in the filter? How does that work?
So there's two ways. Traditionally, which is a bit excessive for a home property, but people do use it, would be sodium hypochlorite, which is basically chlorine. That's what they do to treat municipal or city water in most of the states. So they'll have like a dosing system which circulates the water and doses it with a certain amount of chlorine to kill off the bacteria. We're going for the easier option, which is more suitable for domestic applications. It's pretty much just a UV light that the water runs through. So it's a stainless steel tube about 3 feet long, and it's got a UV tube in there, which is good for about 9,000 hours. So you just replace the bulb every year. And that kills off the bacteria as soon as the water is pumped from the storage tank to the house.
Interesting. But what about all the minerals and stuff? Like,
So,
is that...
a lot of that stuff will be removed with the filtration. We have a large particle filter that comes straight from the tank, which will collect the debris, the sand and the grits sort of stuff. And then from there, we also have a 40 micron filter. So the micron is just the size of the perforations, I suppose, that allows the water to go through. And then we reduce it to a 5 micron, which is substantially smaller, and that'll pretty much get all of the particles and larger minerals out of the water.
So what I'm picking up from the conversation so far, as you guys were checking out the land and scoping out the land, there was this initial thing of checking out with the neighbors, seeing what that was like was a big deal. We were looking for rust stains or, something like that. You couldn't really know with the water, it sounds like, ahead of time. Like you didn't do a bunch of testing or anything on your end. Am I capturing that right?
Right. Just asking around in the general area, people were really happy with the water and there weren't any noticeable issues. So everybody said, we use it for this, and they're very happy. So typically within the same region and on a hillside, you're going to have the best quality water. Usually on the lower, flatter areas is where you'll find a higher mineral content, typically speaking, not in every instance.
Interesting. And so then you guys started looking at the filters and the UV stuff to get rid of some of the bacteria. Are you having to drill more to get things set up? Was there a cost to, hey, you have 20 feet already? Did you have to invest more into setting it up outside of the filters and stuff, or just...
No, pretty much just the well pump. They range in price. You're probably looking $400 to $1,200 for a pump. Just depends on your needs. So basically they'll go from a 0.5 horsepower to a 0.75 to a 1 horsepower, and they go up depending on the amount of head that you need. So obviously the shallower it is, you need less horsepower in order to get the water up the pipe. So it was basically just the pipe. Then it's 1 1/4 inch PVC, so we'd have the fittings and a pressure gauge, and then that pumps into the storage tank. Then from there it'll be the filters and the pump which pumps to the house.
So if you were in the States and maybe it wasn't so shallow, it wasn't 20 feet, maybe it was 100 feet, how much do you think someone would budget out for putting in all this stuff you're talking about?
So I think we did about 600 odd for the pump and the motor, which is one unit. They're 2 separate units and you just stick them together, and then basically what you do is you lower that down with the rope, and it's kind of suspended about 10 or 20 feet from the bottom, so that you'll have to factor in the calculations. Then the tubing and stuff, probably $50 to $100, nothing too expensive. Filters, you're looking at $60 a pop. We added the carbon filter as well, which also reduces a lot of bacteria and larger particles. Again, that's 60. I don't know, what did you say? $2,000, probably $2,000, $2,000 to $4,000, depending on what parts and the quality of pumps, etc.
Not including the drilling.
Not including the drilling. No.
Yeah. So the drilling would obviously be a company would have to come do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would imagine if you hire someone to do all that stuff, I mean, you're probably paying double, right, for the labor and all those kinds of things. So
exactly, it's not difficult to do. It's very basic, the applications. It just takes a little bit of experience and a little bit of time. But getting the pump in with all the piping and the electrics, I think it took about an hour, maybe 2 hours. So the time's not too long, and we're fortunate enough, since we're building, to have an electrician on site. So he pretty much just put in a small breaker board and a contactor and a couple of other electrical goodies, and that was probably another $250, $200 to $250 for the electric stuff.
That's not too bad, really. I mean, that's really reasonable. Do you guys think, like, with septic, let's talk about that for a little bit, because you got that installed at the same time. Like, did you guys do perk tests before buying the place in order to know whether or not, you could, put septic on it? Or are regulations really not that big of a thing where you guys live that you didn't really have to worry about that?
They actually have a lot of regulations. We were surprised, but pleasantly surprised, because you also that's not the kind of thing you want people just dumping around.
Good regulations, like good for safety, good for, consideration of your surroundings and the nature. They're not overbearing, like some places. Yeah,
it's not like some places that are going to micromanage you, but they're definitely like, make sure this is done right. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question about the perk test, we did not, but we also, when we were here in April looking at the property, we went a couple times. And one of the times we went was specifically in a heavy downpour. So we were out there like lunatics and wet, because we wanted to see what happens to the river. Sit, how does it work?
Any flooding,
anything going on. And you could quite literally watch the water fall and sink. Sort of knew that it was very good drainage. And then when we spoke to the builder, he confirmed that this area has fantastic drainage. But then I'll throw it back to you with the perk testing and how we put it all in.
Yeah, I don't know what the regulations are in the US, but back home we pretty much do it by foot the perk test, kind of at the level that we're gonna put the septic. And we did something similar, except a little bit bigger, and we filled it up with water, and it ran away in a couple of seconds. So nice. We were really lucky with that.
Well,
so sandy soil is always good for that.
Sandy, yeah, absolutely right. Soak it up,
Yeah.
So it sounds like you guys really just did it well. You bought well, I'm not hearing any issues at all. Have you guys had any issues, with this whole process so far that's like, oh man, I forgot about that, or I didn't anticipate that, or, anything
not
like
really.
And so lucky.
We've been very lucky. The electric structure, just with the cavity and the box housing for the meter, they brought the cables in. We ran the power above ground, about 350 feet to the house. Mm-hmm. The well was there, the pump went in easy. The septic, we had an excavator in for our driveway, etc. So he just hauled that all open in an hour. Nice. So we've been very lucky. We have all our utilities, and that's the most important thing for us. We've got good ground. We're up to floor level in our house, so foundations are in, and the concrete slabs in, and touch wood, we haven't had any problems so far.
So far, so good. We're also going to add in a small solar system as well, because while Africa, we're out of nowhere, power to work, so I can't just be sitting there with no power, and I also don't want to lose a freezer full of food. So you just never know. And it's the same thing, even just being in Texas, we have storms and it goes crazy, or a hurricane blows through. You just never know. So we are going to actually get a solar backup system. So we'll have more information at a later date.
So is that something you're doing after the house is built? After the house is built, then you get the solar?
Yeah, because we're just going to do it as a backup rather than the main. But you never know. If it works well, we'll probably use it quite often. It's free, is good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's convenience. If we have a storm and a tree falls on a power line, or you never know. So it's good to have a backup plan. Mm-hmm. And the less reliant we are on everybody else, the happier we're going to be.
That's right. Well, I was thinking, like, when you guys are far out like that, is internet an issue, like on your phones, or just the overall connection, any idea what that's like out there?
View straight to the mountain. There's a view straight to the satellite, or?
Yeah, it'll be like the antenna.
Yeah.
Or the tower. It's not that great down at the property. Thankfully, other people have used boosters. So basically, we just went onto Amazon, did some research, and we found a signal booster. We just run it up a pole or a tree or something, and that faces straight to the provider's antenna, and we just run a cable into the house with the router. So it'll amplify by about 10 times. So whatever signal you have, it'll be 10 times stronger, and that's what we're going to do for Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm. So it's not fiber.
It's not fiber, no. But we'll definitely get 4G, LTE 4G.
Nice.
So there are ways to do it. You don't have to rely on fiber, and you don't have to rely on a Wi-Fi provider to bring all their equipment in, and satellites, and so the booster is a great idea for those people lacking a little bit of signal on their properties.
I've talked to a couple of people now who are using a Starlink. I think it's SpaceX backed.
Yeah.
Oh.
So uses a bunch of satellites for internet, and like it was a guy in Montana, and out in the middle of nowhere, basically. There's no cable out there at all.
Yeah.
And so he said that actually, it's fairly new, but he was super happy with how it worked. And so I'll be curious to see how that comes along. So many satellites going out in space right now, but
it's crazy time.
It is crazy. But basically what we were told for this booster is if you get any cell phone signal, even 1 bar, it can boost it. So I know a lot of times our photographers will put notes in there that say, I got cell service. So then that's great. If there's cell service, you can get internet. You might not be downloading and uploading movies all day on it, but it's doable. You're not out in the middle of nowhere with no internet, which is pretty cool.
And I think this booster, it has an app as well, and basically you just open the app and you move the antenna around, and it'll show you the best way to point it. So it'll say this receives the best signal, this was and you position it as you need it. And I think that was about $100.
Not expensive. We were pleasantly surprised on a lot of this stuff, because we went in, like a lot of people I know, they don't know how much it's going to cost, and we were pleasantly surprised with a lot of it at how it was not bad.
And then it's awesome. About $45 a month for unlimited data.
Yeah. And then we just hook onto that. So it's doable. For sure, it's doable.
But we're learning all these processes as we go, all the off-grid tricks.
Well, you'll learn more, right? It's going to keep changing. It's never going to stay static.
Oh, yeah.
More and more people are doing it. So the market's only going to expand.
Absolutely. Well, especially with COVID and everything that's gone on the last couple of years. I mean, more people wanting to get away. I think at Generation Family Properties and the other ones that we got going on. I mean, that's what people want, and it's more easy now more than ever to do this stuff. Not that it's ever super easy, but it's just becoming much easier than it was 10, 15 years ago, for sure.
And very rewarding. That's the best part. You're doing all this DIY stuff, and it's not easy for everybody, but you put a bit of Google research in there and bring a couple of tools down to the property, and it's really rewarding. Step by step you can improve it, and I would recommend it to everybody. So buy lots of properties and get off grid.
That's the way to do it. I love it. Well,
definitely, I encourage everybody to look into it. It's life-changing.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
I know you guys are planting some fruit trees. We'll have to talk more about that in the future.
Yeah.
Any other just closing thoughts, or something that if you were talking to someone that was looking at one of our properties, just good advice to give to them from your guys' experience that maybe we haven't touched on, or maybe we touched on a little bit, and could close out this call with today.
I would say use whatever resources you can find, meaning talk to local people.
Exactly.
Don't rely on just a Google search or something, because I know I do it all the time. People will say, well, what's the well depth in this area? I Google it and it'll say it varies from 100 to 1,000 feet. That's not helpful at all when you're budgeting. That's like that in dollars, $1 million. So I would contact area and say, hey, is this hard to do? Is this possible to do? Is water delivery a better option for me rather than spending $15,000 drilling a well? That's a lifetime worth of water delivery. Maybe that's a better option. Same with internet. No, maybe you can't get fiber run out there, but check with your cell phone provider map. If there's cell phone service out there, even a little bit, you can make it work. So there are ways to make things work. What might seem impossible, like going out in a rainforest in the end of a dead end road, and it actually is pleasantly not impossible, as we have found. So do it. If you actually have a dream of doing it, do it, because it's easier than you think for the most part. Obviously there's snags, but do a bit of research ahead of time. But like Jason was saying, so many people are doing it now that there's an actual market for this stuff. The Starlink, the internet stuff, the boosters, the solar panels are getting so much cheaper now. You can buy them at Costco now. It's, you know what I mean? Like everybody wants to do it. So it is very doable.
I love it. I love it. Jason, anything else from you?
I just, like I said, I highly recommend it. Get out there, go for it. It can be a little bit stressful to start off, but the reward is you can't put an amount on it.
No, it's awesome.
Get out there, enjoy nature, absorb all your surroundings, have a break, relax, look at the stars, and just take it all in this crazy world we're living in at the moment. It's what everybody needs to do. Just get away, have a break, and deep breaths.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming on. It's been a while. If anyone has any questions, I know, Kristy, obviously you have personal experience with this now. As they look at a piece of land, what's the best phone number to reach you at if they have questions about any of our properties? So call or text, either one. I'm pretty responsive. 971-248-6715. And then sales@GenFamLand. Bam, there you go. Easy, all right. Done. I'll help you. I'll hook you up with your property of your dreams. All right, you guys. Well, thanks again so much for coming on. And for Land Stories, this is Dave, Deniston, Generation Family Properties. Please feel free to reach out anytime. Check out all of our website, genfamproperties.com. Contact Kristy with any questions. Have a good one. Bye-bye.